All right, welcome back to the Blueprint on How to Turn Goals into Achievement podcast. For students, I am your host and speaker and coach, Andres Ruiz, and today we have the privilege of having an amazing woman who's doing a lot of amazing work. Her name is Nancy Zamora, and she's a graduate of Texas A&M University, where she received her Bachelors of Business Administration in Management and received her Master of Science in Higher Education Administration from Texas A&M University Commerce. Driven by her passion to see students excel educationally despite economic barriers and limitations, Ms. Zamora began her career with TRIO in January of 2010 and is currently serving as a director of TRIO programs for the North Central Texas College District. Throughout her time in TRIO, Ms. Zamora has had the honor of serving as president of the Texas TRIO Association, as well as the Southwest Association of Student Assistant Program Board. As an alum of the TRIO program, she understands firsthand the importance of the work that we do as TRIO professionals and of the need for ongoing development of the skill set needed to continue to break through down barriers. So amazing work that you do, Nancy. Thank you for being on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Andres. It's my privilege.
Yeah, for sure. So Nancy, I always like to get the show started with, just asking the guests to kind of brag on themselves. I think it's important that we brag on ourselves a little bit. So I want to ask you, what would you say is your superpower?
It's funny that you ask, because I never see myself as a superhero or anybody. And I feel like anybody like in our like similar roles as myself always think of themselves of just regular people just doing their job, doing what they're supposed to do, and never want to look at ourselves and think like, oh, I'm doing amazing work, or I'm, a superhero or whatever. And I think a lot of us suffer from that. But as I thought about it a little bit, I was like, you know what? I do have a superpower. And that superpower is my passion and dedication for helping others, and to helping them, especially if they're coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, such as myself and a lot of individuals that I work with come from those same backgrounds. So I think that is my superpower, is wanting to help them as much as I can and helping them be successful within their own lives and to achieve their goals.
I love that. Yeah, and that's definitely a big superpower. And I mean, you've been working with these type of kids for quite some time now, so I can definitely see that you have that ability and that skill set. I think it's a skill set now, like where you have that passion to help other people. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, that superpower is definitely what we need more of. So I'm grateful that you're doing that for our youth. And so kind of just like give us an overview of the work you do as the director of TRIO programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do so, I do want to kind of start out by letting you know a little bit about my background, and it'll kind of explain why I am where I am today.
Okay.
So I am actually an alumni of the TRIO programs. I was a part of Talent Search, Upward Bound, and Student Support Services growing up, and they've pretty much shaped my life and really were there, and they were my support system, my backbone, my everything. And once I graduated from high school, I wanted to go out and be a business person. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in the business world. And once I was there, I realized that my passion was elsewhere, and that passion was working with individuals that had that went through the same things that I went through growing up. And I wanted to help them just like Upward Bound and Student Support Services had helped me growing up. And so with that, I transitioned on to working with TRIO programs, particularly Upward Bound. And then from there, I went on to Talent Search. And now I direct a Student Support Services program and Talent Search. So it's kind of been, ongoing since I was probably a freshman in high school. And so all of that has kind of built up and kind of empowered me to become, this higher ed professional within TRIO that really just enjoys working with students and helping them see through their educational goals, and not only helping them, but also helping their families, right? Because you help one and you help the rest of them coming up. You just are opening the door for the rest of them to come through, right? So I've been in a lot of roles within TRIO. I've been an advisor, I've been a coordinator, and a director of TRIO programs. And so throughout my time, what I do now is administer those two programs. I help my staff advocate for our students. We help, as you know, low-income first-generation college students to kind of get ready for college and help them with the process of applying and finding the resources that they need to be able to even get to the level of higher education, right? In order to transition from secondary school to higher education, and then when they're in college, is helping them be successful and attain their educational goals, and whether that be going on to the work force or going on to pursue a higher degree, whether that be a bachelor's, master's, or a PhD of whatever sort. So yeah, so it's basically a little bit of everything, anywhere from financial aid, advising, to career exploration, to transfer assistance, just pretty much a one-stop shop for everything that has to do with college.
I love that. Yeah. And thank you for sharing your story and how it helped you. And I can definitely see the passion that you have for this, because, you know, it helped you at one point in your life. And so that's a beautiful story. So thank you for going back and sharing what your experience was like for that.
Yeah,
So tell us, you know, like for students that would be interested in having a career in higher ed or just going to college, what would you say it takes to be successful at what you do and, you know, going through college?
So as far as college goes, I would say hard work and perseverance. College is not necessarily about how smart you are or how, how many AP classes you took in high school and how many, what your GPA was in high school. It's more about like, I'm here, I'm not going to give up at the first sign of, when it starts to get hard, right? I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to, if I fail a class, okay, what do? Take it over. I find the resources that I need and continue on. It's about not giving up. And if you can understand that and you can really feel that, then you'll be able to get through college a lot easier than whenever you're just beating yourself up or at the first sign of things getting kind of rough, you give up and you run away, kind of, right? And I think also I've seen students in both coming in who are super, super smart and some that are, they struggled through high school. And it was hard enough for them to get to college in the first place. And I've seen them be more successful than those students who were the top of the class, who were, the smartest ones in school. But they come in thinking, oh, this is just going to be just as easy. So I'm just going to come and do the exact same thing that I did in high school. And then they realize that, hey, I'm not the smartest kid here like I was in high school, or I'm not, it doesn't come as easy, but they don't really understand how to get through it. And it's more like oh my gosh, I failed. And so they quit. Right. And so it just depends on how hard you're willing to work and how, and not giving up. Right. And then the other thing would be understanding that your journey and your timeline is different than anybody else's, right? You're used to, in high school, middle school, all the way from pre-K up until you graduate high school, you're with this class and you move on to the next grade and to the next level. And you kind of are pushed from one grade to the next, right? College is not like that. Life happens. You're an adult at this point, things happen. Your situation may be different than, Susie who's over there. You may have to work through college and Susie does not. So just know that your timeline doesn't have to look like everybody else's. If you're a traditional student, yeah, that there's a lot of, challenges that come with that. But it's a little easier because you don't have, sometimes not always have the same challenges as other individuals as the traditional student. So it could be that you are, graduating in time. And I hate to say in time because it's not really, there's not a time, right? There's not a timeline. Everyone is in a different timeline. So, so you may be able to finish in 4 years, but then what? You know, start thinking about what you want to do. Do you want to go to grad school? Do you want to, you know, keep learning? One of the biggest things that people come back to me, and even myself, and say is like the biggest thing that I regret is taking a break and not going straight into grad school, knowing that I wanted to go to grad school, right? It's a lot harder to come back after you left, you know? And then for a non-traditional student, I would say probably the hardest part is having to balance so many things at once, right? A lot of them have families, a lot of them have financial responsibilities and things like that. And so it's a lot harder for them to maybe go to school full time and all of that. So just knowing that, you know, your timeline is different, your circumstances are different. Take the time that you need, and as long as you finish, it doesn't matter if it takes you 4 years or if it takes you 6 years. You know, you're on a different timeline than everybody else. And then for my first generation students, I would say being, and I've heard this at a conference a long time ago, and I can't remember who said it, but it just stayed with me forever. And it's being first doesn't limit you, it makes you limitless. And so that would be my biggest advantage, or advice that I could give any college student, that and taking advantage of all the resources that you can.
I love that, man. That was fire right there. That was like so good. And I love the one that you said about like not comparing yourself to Susie. Like it reminds me of one of the kids at Upward Bound that I was speaking to, and she said, it's just not fair. You know, like they don't have to work, they don't have to take care of their siblings, they don't have to go to school. All they do is they just go to a school, and then their parents do all the things for them. That's not fair. And you know, I love what you just mentioned of like, when you compare yourself to other people and their journey, you're really taking away from the moment, in that moment from you, your joy. And I really feel like all that you said right now was just very powerful and so insightful. So, you know, thank you for sharing that, because I do see that a lot with Upward Bound students, and then also the ETS kids. When I'm speaking to them, they have that challenge where they are comparing themselves to other kids. And you know, I tell them, you know, hey, don't compare yourself to other people, because your life is different, you know. But because you're going to get through this journey right now, the challenges that you're going through right now, you're going to be way stronger and more resilient. And you know, that's what I want to like instill in them, of like, wow, you're doing amazing things. So thank you for sharing that, Nancy. That was very powerful. So what would you say are like the 3 challenges you've been noticing college students having lately?
Yeah. I would say probably the biggest one is family expectations and obligations. Especially after COVID, a lot of our students, the population that we work with, they had, they were no longer just students, or they were no longer just like sister and brother. They became the breadwinners because parents were being laid off, like parents were getting sick and all of that. And so it was really hard for them to kind of fight that. And it's already hard. It was hard before. It always has, because the population that we work with, that's family's important, and what they think and what they, expect, their expectations for you weigh very heavily on your shoulders, right? And so you try your best to make them proud of you, to make them, just recognize the hard work, which is hard for them to understand a lot of the times, because they've never been through, through school, through higher ed, through college, or any of that. So they don't quite understand, right? So it's already hard enough as it was before, but then COVID kind of amplified it, right? And so now they're having just a lot more trouble trying to figure out, like, okay, how can I balance, how do I balance all of this? And how do I make sure that I'm giving 100% to school and 100% to my family and 100% to this or that or whatever? And it's hard. It is really hard. So I would say that would probably be the highest one. Another one would be lack of motivation or like self-esteem. Students are just struggling with that, right? They they're tired, they're burned out, and I get it. You know, I've, even as a higher education like professional, the last few years have been really, really hard. And so we're all kind of pushing forward, but it's just hard to find that motivation, to find that, you know, like, okay, I can do this, or like being able to tell ourselves like, you know, I got this, and I will figure it out. And one way or another, we're gonna get through it, right? And so it's really hard. And then the other one, we've seen a lot of students suffer from anxiety, whether that be text anxiety, social anxiety, whatever type of anxiety, you name it, they have it. You know, it's just, I think it's been hard. It's been hard trying to navigate through this pandemic and trying to really just try to get through it and understand it and figuring it out. And the fear of the unknown has just amplified that anxiety kind of that
Wow.
comes with all of that. So
I love that. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like all these things that you're talking about, like the lack of motivation, lack of self-esteem. You know, like I had a presentation where I was talking to the kids of, you know, teaching them how to love themselves and know that they're worthy, that they're good enough. Because I think that if they don't appreciate themselves, if they don't feel that they believe in themselves, then they're going to struggle with that motivation. So what I like to do is I like to help them with bringing out that internal motivation. Like, I'm the one in charge of my life, and I'm going to get through this anxiety, this challenge. So you know, I love that, you know, what you're mentioning is so true. Every single thing that you mentioned, the expectations can be very challenging. And like for you, Nancy, like what would you say are like what advice would you give any kids, you know, any students that are dealing with this challenge? Like what would you give them to overcome these challenges?
yeah, so I think a big part of it is helping your family understand what you're going through, and helping them understand that you know, the position that you're in, and helping them in educating them in order for them to be there as a support system and not kind of against, and not that they're against you, they just don't understand, right? So just helping them understand so that they can be there and be a support system and not you know, another challenge that you have to face, right? Number two, like if you're able to get your family on board, great, but also having an additional support system, whether that be, you know, a group on campus, or if it's, you know, trio, any of the trio programs, because we're all over the place, finding you a support system that's going to help you and help you understand kind of, and help you navigate everything that college is, right? And that's how it was for me. Like my family supported me, and we're like, we're here for you. We want you to get an education, but we have no idea how to help you, and we have no idea what resources you need. You know, we can't help you answering questions. So I knew that I needed a support system that was going to understand what I was going through at that moment, right? And so that, I think it's huge. Finding resources to help you either on campus or in your community, especially if you're having, you know, some challenges with mental health or low self-esteem or lack of motivation, you know, finding those resources either on your campus or in your community. They're there, you just got to seek them out. And then the last kind of advice would be self-care is important. You know, people talk about, you know, working out, you know, and if you don't like to work out, because I don't like to work out either, like find out, you know, what works for you. For me, dancing, I love dancing. So find a place where you can dance, find a place where you can like just have fun and relax and enjoy yourself with friends. Make sure that you're eating well, make sure that you're sleeping as much as you can. I know that sometimes it's hard. And making sure that you have a good balance, you know, between school and work and everything that's happening. Finding time for yourself, making sure that you drink enough water and things like that. You know, all of the things that people talk about but the college students are completely opposite, right? You talk about what the college students eat, and they drink coffee and they eat pizza every day, and they don't sleep because they're up all night studying. You know, all of the things that college kids do or students do. It's not, you know, try to do the
Yeah.
opposite. At least find a good balance, right?
Yeah.
That'll definitely help.
I love that. Yeah, great tips, by the way. And yeah, so important that self-care is just so crucial to make sure that we have good mental health and overcome that stress. You know, I always like to emphasize on that, to teach the kids on that self-care and making sure that, you know, you're getting enough sleep. Hey, you need a nap, go take a nap. Hey, you need to take a break, go for a walk or something like that. You know, very simple things, but that are just not very commonly practiced. So thank you for sharing those tips. I appreciate it. So like you kind of mentioned about like seeking out resources, you know, getting help. I want to ask you, like, how did you find help in mentorship for what you do? And how did these mentors help you on your journey? And anybody in particular you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so I've never had a problem with asking questions, which was probably my saving grace. I was always asking questions and asking for help and looking for people to help me because I knew that I didn't know the answers to any of these. And I want to say that my mentors, you know, starting out and, you know, as a freshman in high school, my mentors were my teachers in Upward Bound. And Upward Bound has been there for me. And by Upward Bound, I mean the staff that was there while I was going there. And I feel like they helped me to grow, to believe in myself, even whenever I didn't. And not only supported my dreams, but encouraged me to dream bigger, right? And through all of that, they also like cultivated and inspired me to be, you know, the best version of myself. And that was, you know, my mentors in Upward Bound. It was my mentors in college. My mentor, Sarah McWilliams at Texas State University, who was the director of the Student Support Services program while I was at Texas State. Rodney Mitchell, who's passed, unfortunately. And all of the individuals that worked in Upward Bound, you know, to this day, I still talk to them, you know.
That's awesome.
Still stay in touch with them for the most part. Karen Dean, Diane Newman. So it's just, they have been my life and my family since I can remember. And I cannot say how much I appreciate them for all of that, you know, support and love that they gave me throughout the years. And even after graduating, I had the opportunity to work with a few of them as now then my peers instead of my, you know, my director of Upward Bound or my assistant director of Upward Bound, whatever. Like now they were my peers. Like I was working with them. They were still my mentors through all of that. So, and it was just being able to being involved probably in college was probably the best thing you can ever do. Just being involved, getting to know individuals on the campus, and then leveraging the individuals that you met, you know, networking is always a big one, whether you're in college or you're out of college. You know, you never know who's gonna on the other side of that table, right? On the other side of the
I love it. This is honestly like you've given so many golden nuggets. Honestly, like you've given knowledge that is worth thousands of dollars, really. Like, I mean, if these kids implement all that you said, wow, they can go so far. I really truly believe what you're saying. Every single tip that you've given is definitely a great map to success. It's like a blueprint, really, literally. It's a blueprint for you to be successful. You know, being involved, helping people out, asking questions. Oh my God, that's a tough one for kids. I notice in Trio, Upward Bound, all over the map. It's like they don't want to ask for help because they don't want to be seen as like dumb or weak or they. It's just that mentality of like, oh my God, they're gonna make fun of me, or I don't want to bother people. I don't want to be a burden. I mean, I hear it all the time from like these kids, but it's like asking for help. My God, that will take you places you could never imagine. So thank you for sharing that. But just to wrap things up, final question for you, Nancy, is why is it important to stay hungry and humble at the same time when pursuing your goals?
Well, before answering that question, I do want to say, you know, you should always be proud of what you've accomplished, all of your achievements and your goals that you've met to this day. Absolutely. Make sure that you're very proud of them, that you recognize them, but also understanding and being open-minded and knowing that there's always something else that you can learn, right? None of us know it all. As much as we like to think we do, we don't, right? There's always something we can learn, and something that we can learn from. Things change. Working in higher education, you know, you have students coming in, you know, every single year, but with every single year that we have and new students that we have, they come with a new set of challenges, right? So just making sure that you're open to learning, being open-minded, and then being humble and genuine is going to get you a lot further than being cocky and arrogant about, you know, the things that you know, or the things that you know, think you know. So just know that, and know that people are going to gravitate more towards you, and they're going to open up more opportunities to you if you're able to be humble and if you're able to be genuine with people. People can read people really, really well. And so know that that's going to get you a lot of more places, and it's going to open a lot more doors.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Nancy, this has been very insightful. I mean, I've been taking notes. I learned quite a few things, and you know, I just want to say thank you so much for what you do, and thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I want to say thank you, the audience. I hope you learned as much as I learned today from Nancy. And, you know, I want to say thank you again for watching the Blueprint on How to Turn Goals into Achievement podcast. We will be seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day. Peace.